All set.
So you already said your thing.
Introduce it. Welcome, council and members of the public and everyone online to the Scottsville Town Council meeting, the regular session for June 20th, 2022. This meeting is held in compliance with Virginia open meeting laws and the State Freedom of Information Act. The meeting is open to the public and includes a duly advertised public hearing. Everyone has the opportunity to participate and comment on these meetings, both here in person at the Town Hall, 401 Valley Street, and participating remotely by phone or online. A quorum of the Town Council is here in person and none are attending remotely. If you're viewing the meeting in the future on our YouTube channel, thank you very much. The meeting will come to order now.
Meeting to order at 7 o'clock. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
That's here. Bullock here. Krista. Hines
Here.
Payne.
You're okay. Your alias tonight.
Mayor.
Everybody's here but Dan, and Dan is in an airplane hidden somewhere, I think, in this direction.
Sorry.
I'll ask you to stand with me for a few moments and we'll have the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Be seated. The consent calendar for this evening consists of approval of this agenda, the approval of the minutes from June 13th work session and May 16th regular meeting, and the financial report for May of this year. Do I hear a motion that we accept the consent calendar as presented?
Could I request that it gets amended? Financial report's isn't complete.
Okay,
It's stuck in the pipeline.
okay, so the financial report is not part of your package tonight.
Yes.
Thank you, but thank you for jumping right on the work session minutes from last week. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay, so with the change in the consent calendar, just items A and B will be on the agenda tonight. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent calendar as amended?
I move to approve the consent calendar as amended.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 3 on our agenda is the public forum. We have several members of the public with us tonight. If you're here for a specific thing, you will wait to talk about that specific thing later. But if you're here just to have something you want to talk about, now's your chance. Take the podium, introduce yourself, and let us know what's on your mind. No one? Okay, we'll close the public forum, and then the vice mayor's report will not be given because he hasn't been here to compile one. He will be back in town tomorrow, Wednesday, for the Bateau Festival. The only additions to what I reported in the work session was that Matt and I met the 17th, what was that, Thursday, with Supervisor Price, and they had not a whole lot on their agenda for the supervisors meeting. They're talking about, now this is always kind of amusing. They have approved all this housing in the Avon area, and now they're talking about school population might be too much. So they're talking about the population of the schools in the Avon area where they've approved all the housing. They talked about solar. There's still some questions on their minds about different solar projects going on, some legislative priorities, and something called the Albemarle Business Camp. Do you know what that is?
Business campus, a mixed-use property in the Avon Street area that has some business locations that they're trying to fill.
Okay, those are the highlights of our meeting with Supervisor Price. And then yesterday afternoon, for those that were unable to attend, we had a real nice plaque dedication to Minerva Del Lewis, who used to own a building at the corner of the farmer's market lot nearest the tavern on the James. And from what I heard yesterday, her building that she owned was about the same size as the tavern on the James. And it had consisted of a hotel, apartments. I think there was a saloon in there. And we had her like 5th great granddaughter, 5 generations down, granddaughter and another cousin in attendance. And we dedicated this plaque to Ms. Lewis as being the first Black woman in Scottsville to actually own property and run a business here. And after about 1910 or 11, I think is when they sold the property, did they? And then, over the course of the years before the levee, when the floods came, that was in the direct path of the floods. So eventually the building had to be torn down. But the real interesting thing is there was a couple that live over on Poplar Hill who actually live in Miss Lewis's old home. And when they were remodeling, they found some pictures of the original photographs of the family that had fallen down behind the mantle, between the mantle and the wall. So they're going to make arrangements. This is a great granddaughter of Miss Lewis. They're going to make arrangements to get those photographs and other things back to the family, which is great. And this lady is not only the granddaughter, she's an author of children's books, and she just had one published, and she happened to have dedicated it to Miss Lewis, and then found out we were doing a dedication to Miss Lewis also. So it was a good way to recognize somebody that has not gotten any recognition in the early days of 1900s, and help to make the economy of the town grow. So I'm sorry those that couldn't be there were not there. We had about 30 people, but it was a nice function. Weather cooperated. And so that was the end of my report. If anybody has any questions. I know I said the vice mayor is not in town this evening, and Mr. Payne's Government Services Committee was unable to meet. So anything else just general that you would like to speak to?
So I wasn't there, but
Yeah.
there was no
You were unable to attend. And
and followed up.
Kevin Quick shared some of the same discussion from work session on maintenance items. So we're clear on some of that maintenance checklist, and we heard the same thing in work session.
Okay, that's really all I'd have to say, is that it's still a priority, with our committee as well as the council, as far as the appearance and maintenance.
yeah, we actually had a maintenance problem Saturday. I don't know if you heard about that one. I went to visit, I went to the farmer's market, and I saw the Virginia tourism guy, the Charlottesville Bureau of Visitors guy, van there. Went over to speak to him. He said somebody had just reported that there was a pipe leaking in the Canal Basin Square bathroom. So I went over there, and the water was just pouring from the ceiling. You could have taken a shower. And at first glance, I didn't notice that the spigot on the sink was wide open. So I said, well, at least I can close that. So I went over, when I shut that off, water stopped coming from the ceiling. So Matt got on the phone to a plumber in Charlottesville, and he said he wasted 10 minutes of Matt's time asking for all this information. He said, I can get there on Friday of next week. And so we were able to track down Mr. Danzy, and they came out, and they're going to try to finish up the job tomorrow. So it'll be ready for Wednesday. So yeah, one of those little maintenance items that we talked about the other day.
Better it's called now than this week, so.
Yeah, so I know Meredith has been out of town. Anything that you wish to report this evening?
No, just gonna
Okay.
try and meet Matt tomorrow. We talked about music. Matt stopped by Baines before I left that town last week. Just set up the order of the music and all that good stuff.
So is the music starting in the afternoon?
In the afternoon.
Okay, that's great.
And with the Charlottesville, the name, I have to say this.
Yeah, they always put on a good show. So that's great. I'm glad you and Alex is working on that too. You have anything to add?
I think Mr. Wallace is taking the reins on that, and
Right.
I'm sure it'll be a fantastic.
Well said. Thanks for guiding it and getting the kind of outline of it the way you want for the community, and that makes it clear for Javier and I to make bookings and make sure everybody who needs to be paid is paid on time.
And then we'll ask Mr. Bullock if he has anything to report on ARB.
Yep, we had a brief agenda. The major new business was painting of and muraling at 350 Valley Street is where the dress business is going in. The painting is for the door and window frame, which is fairly straight ahead. The mural, the ARB's position on murals is actually not to do so much with them. It's not in our ordinance, how to deal with them or in our design guidelines. But what we sort of set as precedent 2 years ago, when Jeffrey Plank was still the chair, was that we didn't want to get into issues related to aesthetics or designing a mural, because that's not what we do. We deal with buildings. And so as far as we are concerned, when it comes to any mural in town, we just address site and location. Doesn't suit that space. And the ARB felt that this particular one was okay. In fact, balances out this building, which is otherwise rather off-center. So the ARB approved not quite this color scheme on the doors and window frames. That'll be 3 tones, I think, in the end. But that was our major piece of new business. So this business will get underway. We'll also be meeting with property owners from 280 Valley Street about unpermitted painting from last year. So it'll be good to walk through them, their own sort of painting scheme on their building, as well as hopefully following up with 155 West Main Street, the new flower shop sign for their business. The last item was reviewing landscaping work at Dollar General, which has been out of order now for a number of years. And we finally think we figured out who to contact about it. Good for us. We've been mostly dealing with Dollar General, but we learned that Dollar General doesn't do the landscaping. Is that right, Matt? And so we need to deal with a property owner who Dollar General rents from. In this case, it's MCE Properties out of Roanoke. I got all that right. And so that is our next sort of course of action. But they'll be issued a notice that they are in violation of their COA, and that they have to do the work pending legal action from us.
Maybe those in attendance have experience where there's something wrong with the property and there's a back and forth between the tenant and the landlord over whose fault it is and whose responsibility it is to fix it. Exactly the same situation exists on commercial properties where there's a national corporation and a local store manager, and then this in between that owns the ground and maintains it that isn't Dollar General. How about that?
So that was our business. One other update, Barbara Wilkinson fulfilled her term with the ARB, but is not renewing her term. So we have a vacancy on the board for a town resident. So if you know anyone who would like to serve who's currently a town resident, we'd be happy to interview them for the position.
Okay. Let me ask you one question. They've been doing work on lumpkins. I don't know if you've noticed. And
They did? I don't know.
yeah. Does that fall under any ARB guidelines or any changes to the exterior of that building?
Technically, that's entrance corridor.
I spoke with the property owner on that. They're adding an ice cream service, so they'll restore.
They changed the windows down on the
Yeah.
north end of the building.
Yep, there's a slight change to a window to allow that takeout service from the window and a small sign that'll indicate ice cream. So I checked in with the property owner on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I was just curious about that one.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Mr. Bullock? Well, that brings us to item number 6. And our first item under 6 is special use permit for tourist lodgings at 345 East Main Street. Mr. Wallace, you want to bring us up to speed on this?
Yes, sir. 345 East Main Street is known locally as the Colonial Cottage, small house on the south side of Main Street near the levee. One of the older properties in town.
The gray one or the yellow one?
I'm sorry.
Is it the gray house or the yellow house?
Yellow.
That's the yellow house right behind right behind Terry.
Yeah, right.
Okay, yeah, I've been in that. It's really neat.
The property owners are with us this evening, living in the home. They've taken work which involves frequent travel out of the house and propose the special use permit application for tourist lodgings to supplement their income when they're not in the building by renting it out. Planning Commission found that to be relatively ideal use for the property, where it remains occasionally owner occupied with good eyes on it, and that this is a reasonable use of the property when it's not being lived in. Planning Commission recommended approval to Town Council as being consistent with the town's goals for historic preservation and tourism economic development. The Planning Commission did apply recommend a condition on that use permit that the guest parking be restricted to the back parking area, which is sufficient for the expected occupancy load for the use. That would help to protect the limited on-street parking at that location. But Town Council had first reading on this last at the joint meeting earlier this month, and the public hearing step is before you now.
Okay. So if everybody's clear on that, I will open the public hearing on 345 East Main Street. If there's anyone in the public that wishes to speak to this, including and not limited to the property owners, you're certainly welcome to speak.
I'll just talk really quickly. I am Jocelyn O'Connell. This is my fiance Austin. We live at 345 East Main. Short-term rental is our only option. We are moving up to Avon Hill in Howersville. We will be up there most of our time, but there it is a wedding destination. So there are some weekends that we have to come home. There are some holidays that the owner of the property will be up there with their family, and we have to come home. We have 3 dogs, so we can't really just rent a place. So we do need this. We don't want tractors isn't an option for us, unfortunately. So we would really appreciate approval for this, and we hope that we can bring people here to see the charm and history of our house as well as the town itself.
Thank you. Any questions? Any others in the audience that wish to speak? And hearing none, we'll close public hearing. And we will discuss this among ourselves for a few minutes. Anybody have any thoughts, comments before we make a motion? No? So do I hear a motion to approve the special use permit for 345 East Main Street as presented in the presentation?
I move to approve tourist lodging 345 as presented.
And is there a second? Is there any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor, could I clarify the motion? Does that include the Planning Commission condition idea about parking or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Keep keeping the condition. Thank you.
Does it need to be restated?
No, as conveyed from Planning Commission.
So it's been moved and seconded. There's no further discussion. We'll ask for the clerk to call for the vote.
That's it.
Yes.
Fuller,
Abstain.
Hines,
Yes.
Yes.
A motion passes 3-4, 1 abstention. Got it. All right, thank you. Let us know if we can help you with anything.
Thank you so much.
All right. The other item is that we have a vacancy when Mr. Munson left us. And we have 2 candidates that have shown interest in that vacancy. This was to fill out his term till the end of the year, right?
Yes, sir.
So there's only 6 months left in that term. We have 3 choices, just so you know, and I'm not pushing any choices here as far as options. Maybe I've used the word options instead of choices. We have 2 choices for the seat. We have 3 options to get somebody in that seat. We can have a motion to go forward this evening, interview the candidates and make a decision. We can have a motion to interview the candidates tonight and vote next month. Or we can have a motion to leave the seat vacant until the November elections come about and see if it gets filled during that time. So y'all let me know what you want to do on this item this evening.
I think that you say, we have two candidates.
Yes, sir.
And both of them have been active in the town in the past. Both of them have done a good job with any position they were in. It would be a hard choice between the two of them. So well, I think we all know the candidates, and I think we could go ahead and move on that action tonight.
Okay, so go ahead with the interviews and then have vote tonight.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, that's Mr. Payne's motion. Is there a second? And Mr. Second said, is there any further discussion? So do you need to record this vote, or can we just have a yay or a nay?
If for the closed session interview, there's a specific wording to the.
Yeah, I'm talking
public.
about to go ahead with it, move forward with things tonight rather than put it off till. In other words, interview the candidates and vote tonight to fill the seat.
If that's your preference.
That's the motion.
Good.
Yeah, so can we just have all in favor, aye? All in favor, aye? Opposed? Okay, so we will get to that next. And what that means is that everybody has to leave the room. We'll go into closed session. We'll call the candidates in one at a time and speak to them. I know last time we did it a little differently because we had two vacancies and two candidates, so it was like forgiven, right? And this time we will,
Ask a question. On the agenda, you have staff reports after this.
yeah, we'll open back up.
So if we could do,
Of course.
tell us-
Yeah, after we finish our closed session, we'll open back up because we have to adjourn.
So we have this, the specific wording of the closed session that our clerk will enforce, and I'll stop the recording during the closed session and just restore it.
So we need someone to make a motion, reading, I move that the council, blah, 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 enter a closed session and then read number 1. So do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I move that the council enter a closed meeting as authorized in subsection A of Virginia Code section 2.2-3711, specifically the subsection assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salary, discipline, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body.
And do we have a second? And all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So what's your pleasure? Which candidate would you like to